Hi, my name is Liz Zoima, and I'm here at Quaker Cove Camp in Anacortes, Washington. And our camp has been empty all year, basically, definitely this summer with no programming. I'm so excited to be able to do something and share with you a little video. I started making cakes probably 7 years ago for my kids' birthdays, and then started making them for fundraisers and for the camp, and now I make them in my spare time for friends' birthday parties and things like that. Like this one, I really enjoyed finding some time to do something creative, and if you're a mom, you know how valuable it is to just have something that you do for yourself, that you kind of can experience that creative freedom. And I think God did. I have a kind of a funny light over here. God created us to be creators and to show beauty, and because that's what He does. And so I think doing something like this is definitely part of our hearts that God made. If you're a decoraty or artsy kind of person, if you're not, then I'm sure you express that creativity in a different kind of way. So I'm going to show you today how to frost the perfect cupcake, you know, kind of the image that we get of that swirly, nice top on a cupcake. And to start frosting the perfect cupcake, you need the perfect frosting. And there are lots of different kinds of frosting you can make and lots of recipes you can look up. I prefer to use American buttercream. It's nice and stiff, it's easy to make. The ingredients are simple, and it's pretty hard to mess up. So I'm going to show you how to do that really quick. To do that, the recipe for my American buttercream, and you can add other ingredients to this, like if you want to make it chocolate, or if you want to make it strawberry flavored, you can add cocoa powder or strawberry jam or peanut butter to make peanut butter buttercream, which is really great. So for basic vanilla or this I'm going to show you is sweet cream buttercream, which means that I'm not adding any flavoring. It's just the unsalted butter kind of cream flavor. To make it, you're going to need 1 pound of butter, so that's usually 1 box or 4 sticks. Let's see, 2 cups of butter. So 1 pound of butter and 2 pounds of powdered sugar. Usually when you buy powdered sugar at the store, it comes in 2-pound bags, so you can just buy 1 bag. And usually it's good to have a little bit extra on hand in case your frosting is too thin to thicken it up. You don't want to just be limited to that 2 pounds. If you do buy it in a big 7-pound bag like I do at Costco, then you're going to need 8 cups of powdered sugar. And the way I kind of remember is it's 2 cups of powdered sugar for every stick of butter. So if you need to make a little bit more or a little bit less. And this recipe, 4 sticks, I would say can frost about 2 dozen cupcakes. It's not usually quite enough for a layer cake. For me, I usually end up doing 1.5 pounds of butter and 3 pounds of powdered sugar. So you can experiment, and it also depends on kind of how heavy-handed you are with the frosting. So the first thing we're going to do is put our butter in the mixer and mix it up so that it's nice and smooth. And one of the keys to making really good buttercream is that you don't want to mix it on a super high speed. A lot of people think that whipping everything is better, but if you think about like whipped cream cheese, if you've ever had whipped cream cheese or whipped butter, when you spread it, you get all of those air bubbles in it. And generally speaking, for frosting things, unless that's the look you're going for, you want to avoid all of those little bubbles. So mixing things on a really low speed is going to be the best option. Okay. So I'm just going to mix it until it's spread kind of nicely around the sides of the bowl, and it doesn't look kind of cubed up anymore. And if you need to like whiz it up a little bit fast for a minute, you can. The better choice is scraping scraping it off, you know, because the first little round it's going to be just stuck to the paddle. And then just try to keep it on low speed. And you really want like a good room temperature butter for this, because that's going to help your butter mix nicer. If you have really cold butter, you risk breaking your mixer or it not really incorporating quite as nicely. So you just want nice smooth butter. It should be kind of soft to the touch but not melted at all, so it should still hold its shape. And let me just show you what we've got here. So I've just got kind of like this, it's kind of smoothed around the side of the bowl butter. Let's see. Don't know if you can kind of see how it's just kind of, it's spread nicely around the side of the bowl, and that means it's soft enough to start adding our powdered sugar. When you add powdered sugar, you have to be really careful, otherwise you'll end up covered in powdered sugar. So you definitely don't want to mix up lock your mixer switch with your low speed mix here. Usually I find with KitchenAids, if you mix on the very lowest speed, then you're going to be okay for it not to spatter out. But if you do, if you have a guard, you can put a guard on it, or you can put a paper towel over your bowl while you're mixing. So we're just going to mix like the first half of the powdered sugar in until it looks pretty incorporated, and you're going to keep that on the very lowest speed of your mixer. So stir, or you will need some kind of mixer, I feel like, to make really good buttercream, either a hand mixer or a stand mixer like this. Okay, so I'm mixing my first amount of powdered sugar is mixed in. It's kind of cohesive. It's a little bit crumbly because it's dry. And so what we're going to do next is we're going to add the rest of our half of our other pound of powdered sugar. We're going to do it a little bit slowly, and we're going to add in a little bit of heavy whipping cream. If you don't have heavy whipping cream, you can use milk. If you're dairy-free maybe and you're using vegan butter, you can use almond milk or coconut milk. It just kind of has to be a liquid. If you want to make lemon buttercream, add lemon juice instead of heavy cream. If you want to make strawberry buttercream, you can add strawberry jam instead of buttercream, or strawberry preserves, or you can add peanut butter instead of whipping cream. So you kind of want to make this your last ingredient after you get the flavor that you want for consistency, or if you need to add it so that your mixer can mix without sounding like it's struggling. So I'm going to add a little bit more of this powdered sugar. And I'm going to start by adding a couple of tablespoons of heavy whipping cream. And I don't really measure anymore, but you can. It's probably helpful the first couple times you do it. And then I just kind of dump everything in because I like to be risky like that, but you can certainly do it slower. And in total, you're going to add about 4 tablespoons of whipping cream. And this really depends a lot on the temperature. So if you're somewhere cold, it's going to be maybe a little more because things are hardening up. What you need to do is have your buttercream at the right consistency for piping, which means it's not too hard to get out of the bag, and it's not so soft that it looks like watery or runny or kind of doesn't hold a shape, I guess. So you want your spatula to kind of be able to stand up in it, but have it still be spreadable. And buttercream always does get a little bit softer in a piping bag when you're holding it in your hand, because your hands just warm it up. So you might need to give the piping bag a break, or set it somewhere a little bit cooler. If you put it in the fridge, usually the metal tip will make it cold enough that you won't be able to pipe it. Make sure you're scraping your bowl. You don't want to find chunks of sugar at the end. And if it seems not quite thin enough or not quite spreadable enough, then just add a little bit more heavy cream. So right now you can see that I have this kind of yellowish buttery colored frosting, and it's pretty soft. I think the texture is pretty good. I just need to scrape my bowl a little bit because there's powdered sugar in the bottom. And then what we're gonna do is let this run on low for a couple of minutes so that it mixes a little bit better, and it should start to turn a whiter color. So it's starting to get a little bit lighter, but it's not quite right. You want the powdered sugar to dissolve a little bit more into the butter. You can taste it and see if it's grainy. Then you need to mix it a little bit more. And it needs a little bit of air, stirred into it. So we're still using the lowest setting, but it will still lighten up a little bit in color. So I've been mixing for several minutes now, and you can see it's gotten quite a bit lighter in color. I don't know if you can tell, but you'll be able to notice when you're doing it at home. And you can see it's very easy to kind of spread around here. So I think it should be perfect for our piping bags. And it's still holding like a kind of a shape here. It makes little peaks if I'm using it. So the next thing we're gonna do is color the buttercream. And to do that, I'm gonna divide it in a few bowls. And I'm going to be using gel food coloring. And if you're entering our little giveaway after this video is shown, you're going to win a little, if you win, you'll win a little box of gel food coloring. These are my kind of ginormous professional ones, but it's just a really concentrated color, and it doesn't water down your frosting. So you're just going to use a drop or two to color a part of the frosting, or maybe even just a drop. Okay, so I've kind of divided up my buttercream into 4 different bowls, and to show you something a little bit fun, we're gonna do 4 different colors. I have kind of our shine retreat colors. We've got our kind of sunny orange and yellow, and it really just takes a drop of these. And if you have the kind that are in little jars, you just, are going to use the end of a toothpick maybe to scrape some out. And I think we've got a little pink in there and a little bit of turquoise for the sky. Let's see if we can get it out. And then you're going to want 1 different spoon for each color. Or sometimes, because you're going to want 1 different spoon anyway. And then you're just going to mix in your colors. So give me a second to do that. Okay, so we have all 4 colors of our buttercream magically mixed in here. And I'm going to show you how to use the 4 different piping tips. I think these are the same ones that you should win if you win our little giveaway today. This one is called an open star tip. And it's got just kind of spiky edges. Ignore my food colored hands. This is just our normal round tip, a large round tip. This is kind of our closed star tip, so it looks very similar to the other one. It's just, whoops, where's the camera there? It's just kind of bent in there at the end. You can see the star. And this is our French star tip, which has a lot more little pointed jagged ends. And I'm going to show you how to use a couple of them. You're basically going to pipe the same way with any piping tip that you use. You're going to take your piping bag, you're going to cut off enough of the end, and you might have to experiment with this because, whoops, make sure that doesn't get in your buttercream. Because sometimes it's hard to tell how much to cut off. So start with a little bit too little. And then you're going to take your piping tip. We'll start with the French star tip and just push it in. And you want to make sure that your tip is not covered by the plastic. So in this case, I have to just cut a little bit more off of the paper or off of the plastic. And you just want to make sure that it doesn't poke, these little tips don't poke through the plastic as you're kind of pushing it in. So it should just fit nice and firmly in the end. And then my little trick for filling piping bags is if you take a cup, so you're going to want a taller cup kind of, and place your piping bag in the cup so it's kind of standing, and then you can fold the edges down around the edge of your cup. You kind of open up the inside here, and then it's standing up while you can put your frosting inside without falling over and without getting it on the outside of the bag, because if you get buttercream on the outside of your piping bag, it's just going to slip all over, and your hands are going to be sticky, and it's not any fun. It usually happens though, so especially if you're doing cupcakes with kids, you want to make sure that you are pinching the bag closed really well. Okay, so then we've lifted our bag out. We're going to kind of squeeze it down a little bit until we can see it coming out of the tip, just a tiny bit. And then to frost a cupcake, what we want to do is always keep our piping bag, let's see, where's a good angle? Keep our piping bag straight up and down on our cupcake. Okay, sorry, I had to find a little bit better angle there. You're going to keep your piping tip perpendicular up and down while you're doing this. And our first step is going to be to make just a little dollop in the middle. So you're squeezing and then lifting up, and we have just one little dollop. And then we're going to take our piping bag and we're going to circle around it, always keeping our piping bag up and down and our tip straight up and down. And then you're going to come back in a little closer and make a second circle until you come to the top, where you're going to pause, give it a little squeeze and a lift. And then we have this kind of really nice swirl that goes up high on the cupcake. So that's our first example, and that's what this French star tip looks like. Okay, so next I'm going to show you with our round tip. This is just a round hole, and you can also do this by cutting off the end of your piping bag. If you don't have a tip, it doesn't turn out quite as round. So we're going to pipe our little dollop in the middle, and then we are going to go around in a big circle to the edge of the cupcake. And then on our second lap around, we're going to come up, kind of like we're going up a spiral staircase. Then you pause, give it a little squeeze, and pull up at the top, and you end up with this. Okay, and the last one I'm going to show you, or the next one I'm going to show you, I guess I should say, is our closed star tip. That's this one that's kind of bent in. And this just is kind of like a ruffly look. So we're going to start with our dollop in the middle, and you can see how it kind of ruffles. And then we're going to go make our big circle and then kind of step up onto the next rung. Pause in the middle, give it a little squeeze and a pull. Okay, so that's our next one. For the last tip, this is our open star tip. It's my favorite one. I use it like 99% of the time when I'm doing cupcakes, just because I find it's the least fussy and I like the look the best. I'm going to show you how to do something special. Okay, so what I have is our 4 colors of frosting and a piece of saran wrap. I'm just going to lay down here. And we're going to do kind of a rainbow effect. I mean, if you use rainbow colors, then I guess it's a rainbow. This is our kind of shine logo colors. And if you're really fancy, you can have each one of these colors in its own piping bag, and then make a nice, like, very clean line of each one. It doesn't really make too much of a difference in the effect, and like for me, it wastes a lot of piping bags, so I usually just kind of do it this way. And you do want to think about what colors you're putting next to each other. So I don't want to, I mean, pink is pretty safe here because it's not going to make brown if it mixes with anything. If I put pink next to blue, I might get a little bit of purple blend in there. I definitely don't want to put blue next to orange because I'll end up with brown. So I'm going to go yellow, because yellow and blue are green. So we don't worry too much about them mixing with their little neighbor. We need cupcake frosting, social distancing or something. Okay. And then we're going to do our last one of orange. This looks really sloppy, but it's going to turn out really great when we frost our cupcakes. And then we're going to kind of just take our saran wrap and kind of roll it up so that we end up with this kind of roll of color. And it doesn't it's not always the easiest thing to do, but we have it here kind of in a roll, and we're going to twist the end a little bit here, kind of smooth it out. Probably it's better to do this the long way, but you know, it is what it is. I'm going to cut off the end here, and then I have my piping bag prepared already here with my star tip in it, and I'm just going to drop this saran wrap into my piping bag like this. Pull my piping bag up over the end, and then as I squeeze, it'll come out of here. And if you're doing rainbow colors, you know, you can do as many colors as you want to do. Then we're just going to kind of squeeze it a little bit. It might take a while for all of the colors to show up, so you may just do a little test squeeze until you get the look that you're going for. Okay, so I squeezed it out until I got kind of the color effect we're going for. And you can do this with 2 colors. You can do it with 5. You can do it with 6. And then our cupcake, so this is my open star tip, is going to be about the same. We're just giving our little dollop here in the middle. And then we are going around the edge of the cupcake, and make sure you get it all the way to the edge. And we're swirling up till we get to the top. And yeah, and that's my favorite piping tip. It just looks kind of like the perfect little cupcake. I'll do one more so you can practice along at home. Okay, and then also, depending on how you turn your piping bag, it depends on what colors you're going to see. So in that cupcake, we see a lot of maybe yellow on the top. So I can just adjust it a little bit and get different color results. So my piping bag is always straight up and down. I'm doing my first circle to the edge of the cupcake. Always make sure your cupcake, your frosting is kind of locked closed in your thumb and your finger. And then we're going to go, sorry, I stopped there and messed it up a little, our second circle, and then up over the little dollop that we started with and pull up. And that's our, if it's a little lopsided, you can shake it and it goes in the right place. So now we have like a little bit more blue and pink. And let's do one more. So again, we're doing our dollop in the middle, and then we're going around and then coming up for a second circle and covering up that dollop and stopping at the top and pulling up. And we get kind of a different color effect with that too, because I turned the bag a little bit. I hope you guys are having a great retreat and finding some time to get away and do something fun. And I'll try to leave the recipe for my cupcakes. Also, I do recommend using these foil wrappers because they never look greasy. That's always my preference, so I keep them on hand in lots of different colors. Anyway, God bless you all, and thanks hopefully for making cupcakes with me. Bye.